So this part, what you see here, this is the original Vinci Pro hot end, and this is a cartridge that you can drop in, and so you can use it as a drop-in cartridge in your printer. And the reason they've chosen to use a drop-in cartridge is because then you can swap cartridges, but you can also exchange this for a laser engraver that you can put in your machine, so that that you can choose whether you want to be 3D printing or laser engraving. But for me, this hot end is not actually that good. I don't like the particular way this hot end works, and therefore we're going to change this one for an E3Dv6 hot end, although it's a clone that I'm going to use. And I'll show you guys what an E3Dv6 is. So here I've got an E3D style hot end. It's not an original. It's a Chinese clone. And this hot end, this is what I'm going to use in my DaVinci Pro printer. And when you take a close look at this hot end, you see the opening here with a little chamfer. And this is the inlet where your filament is going to be put in. Now there are also other types like this one, and you can see that's a little bit longer. Well, it's not actually longer, because here on top you can screw this PTFE push fitting out, and then you're left with this opening. But as you can see, it's a bit different. This is a very large opening, and for example, when working with flexible filaments, this is not that handy, because your filament can go all the way, while here it's immediately catched in this kind of funnel that will guide the filament right from the top. So I like the design of this particular one, and this is the one we're going to use, and a link to this one will be in the description down below in this video. Now also what we are going to need are the parts to create this hot end, and those parts, they're made by Bruce Walker. Bruce Walker is the original designer of this hot end conversion, and well, I think he designed it very nice. So those are the parts that we are going to use, and what I'm also going to use is his PCB board. This PCB board can be bought by Bruce Walker, and a link will be in the description down below. And it's very handy, because then you don't have to use this PCB board. So this complete cartridge will be original, and you won't have to do any modifications to this one. You can hold it as it is. So this is the PCB board that's designed by Bruce Walker, and that will fit in here. Now when you're going to work with this, you can fit it in here. Then this part will hold your hot end like so. This will be mounted on top, and at the bottom side, and I'll take the PCB apart just for now, at the bottom side here, or the back side, how you will call it, there is the shroud for a small fan, and I've got that fan here. So those are the parts that we're going to use for this E3D conversion. Now first of all, which is very important, you want to make sure you know which way your fan is blowing. And for this fan I already know it, but I'm going to show you guys how you can check this. You have to make sure that you have a power source that goes on the positive and negative wires. And when you have that power source, you can turn it on, and then you can just feel which way the fan is blowing. And in my case, it's blowing towards the sticker that's on it. So with a simple power source you can check whether your fan is blowing that way or that way. Because when you're mounting your fan in your shroud, it should be mounted like this, so that it's blowing the air through this hole and on top of this sink here. So this is the way we are going to mount it. Now let's take a look in what you have to do before you can go to assemble all the parts together. So now the first thing we are going to do is we are going to prepare this part to be used. And one of the things you have to do is you have to put those nuts inside those holes. But as you will notice, this is very tight and you won't be able to fit them in. Now I've seen a lot of people using heat to heaten up these nuts and then push them in, but I don't think that's necessary. You can do it way easier by just getting a screw on top of them and just pushing them in like that. You can set more force when you do it this way, and this is an easy way to put them in. So just like this, you can put more force on them. So this really works well, and this is a way you can insert them very nice. And now I didn't use any heat, so there isn't any molten plastic or whatever. Another thing we have to do is we have to make sure that the M3 nuts we are going to use to mount this part have some thread inside, so we can use this as the nut itself, because we don't have any room here to have those nuts inserted. So what we have to do is we have to use a tap, and I'll show you what you do. This is what a tap is looking like. It's this part I have here. And normally you can do it by hand with just a thing that you can mount on top of it, but I don't have it here, so I use the machine, and I don't have that machine here. But what it does is it brings the tap just inside here and it cuts away the plastic where you have to cut it away. So then what you will be left with is a thread, so your screws will fit in just like this. Those are actually very cheap to buy. I bought a whole set with all types of sizes, and it completely cost me under 10 euros, and it's very handy to have if you're busy with 3D printing. So I made these holes, and also here your fan shroud is coming, so I also would like to have something here that holds them, or you can go the other way and mount your screws in here and hold your nuts on this side. And I think that's even a better way to do it. So I'm now going to use my Dremel tool to make sure those holes are exactly 3 mm, like so. And I do the same thing for this part. So I know for sure my holes are 3 mm. Now I can put in my screws, like, how do I do this on camera, that you can see it and that I can do it. Like this. So here they are. I take away the excess plastic, put this one on top, And now I can mount the nuts. If I don't drop them. Here we have it bolted together. And now you can see the nice tunnel that is here where the airflow will go through. And what I like is to heaten it up just a little and bend it a little so that there is as less as a gap here where the air can go through, because I want all the air to go here and to make sure that this is all ventilated, because this is what it's used for. So I have to mount this one on top here, and it has to be ventilated. So for the depth of those holes and those screws, I've decided that 16 millimeters is the correct length. So 16 millimeters will be the correct length for those screws. And now I'm going to cut those on 16 millimeters. So now it's time to mount this fan on the shroud, and to do so I have to make sure that my cable is going out on this side where this holder is. Oh, gently, gently, gently. So this fan is mounted and it's very strong and securely hold in place. Now what we're going to do, these holes are also already threaded, so I've used a tap to make a thread inside. Here I've got the E3D that I want to install inside this part, and it's going to be mounted like this. So now I want this to be nicely aligned like this. I just hold it while bringing those down. So now this is in place, I can go and mount the board like here. And remember, we already have those nuts there. So the only thing we now have to do is find the correct size of screws and place them inside the board, and therefore my fingers are just a little too thick, but I will manage. Now the board is holding place perfectly. So what we've got now is we've got the whole board assembled. The E3D is in place, we've got the fan in place. Now what we can do is cut the cables to the correct length. In the end you want all the cables to be like here and then coming back like this, so that you can mount them in from this side, and you're able to run a tie wrap through that holder over there. As you can see, there is an opening and you want to run a tie wrap through that. So this is how you want your cables to be. Now if we take a close look inside this board, then you can see here that here there is a lettering, a sign on top which says HTR. This is the heater. Then here it says thermistor, and here it says fan. Now what you have to know is that your fan has a positive side and a negative side, and the right side is the positive side, the left side is the negative side. So if you're looking on top of this and you can read the letters on top, then the left side is your negative side. This is your positive side. This only goes for this board, which is the board of Bruce Walker, and I bought this board because, well, it's very handy. But if you're going to work with this board, which is the original, then you have to find a way to connect with those special clamps. And another way of doing is by just soldering the cables on the board. Of course, you can also do that. Now I like to have my wires a little bit loose, so I have some play for, well, if ever reason I have to go under them. So I give them this amount of play. This is where I'm going to cut the wires for my heater. And the heater wires have to be connected here. There is no positive or negative side, it's just they have to be connected. Now the way I am doing this is by just placing my cutter on top of it and then give a slight pull. But then you always have those red, well, I think it's a bit of cotton or something like that, that goes around it, and I tend to cut this away. I don't like it and I don't want it near my cables, so I cut these away. Just like this. Now there are people that are soldering this to make it stiff. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to solder this. You just want to roll them up, and that's basically all you're going to do. So you're not going to solder this, because you want to have this to make as good as it can contact to your plug. And the only way of doing so is by not soldering it. If you do solder, then the contact will be less, and, well, there is a possibility that it will burn out. So don't solder this. And we do the same for the other side. Make sure it's all the way in, like this, and when it is, then you connect it firmly. Always check them, and they're both tight. And I like to start with the negative wire, which is the black one, and then do the positive wire as the last one. And the reason I do so is just because, well, I have to do the negative wire first, because I'm always working from one side to another. So let me first put in this one. So now all the cables are connected, and this should be good to go. So we now have our E3Dv6 hot end, or in this case a clone E3Dv6, installed. What you have to know is that the opening in the printer is very tight, and the only way to fit this in is if you push this cable like this on the side. So it has to be pushed in like this. So here I have my small tie wraps, and those can go under this, and this is the way I can mount all the cables together, like this. so the cables won't have a possibility to go all the way around. And don't make this too tight. You don't want this too tight, and there is no need for it. So just make sure that, like this, your cables are neatly brought together. This has to be held like this, and this is the only way you can get into the mount in your printer. So hold it like this, and then you can bring it in the printer. Now, someone in the comments of the last video asked me how to open this panel on the side so you can easily work with your machine. Well, that's basically very easy, because you have this scraper tool that comes with the printer, and you can just mount it like here, and when you flip it in like this, then you open this side panel. You have to do that on the back side as well, but you have to make sure that you know where the micro switch is, which is sensing the top cover. So you have to take a look where the micro switch is, and just behind that micro switch you can place it in and open this like so, and then the side panel comes off. Now all you have to do is to remove the top lid, which is also very easy, and when that's coming off like this, now you have access to all parts of the machine. So let's dive into it. So now you go to your utility settings. Oh, I have to do this. So now when you're in the menu, you go to your utilities, go to change cartridge, unload filament, and now it's going to unload the filament. And well, when it's at a correct temperature for this, we can start unloading it by hand, which is easier. So for the unloading of the filament, we just have to wait for the correct temperature to be reached. And in this case you hear a clicking sound. I push the connector, and I'll take away the filament. And I just unload this PTFE tube as well, which is very easy to do. Now I can bring the carriage to its center position, and I can remove this, and well, that's very easy if you have the power off. So I turn the power of the machine off now, and now remove the cable, and I remove the carriage. So I'm now going to install this newly built E3Dv6 drop-in cartridge. I have to get my cables to the correct position, otherwise it won't fit, which is a little bit of a problem anyway, because it won't fit. But now it will. So it's brought in place, and there it is. Now let's see what happens when I turn on the machine. It's going to bring the carriage back. The light is going on, and everything seems to be okay. So I can just go and say load filament now, and bring in the filament, which should fit and should work now. So the extruder is heating up now to a temperature of 230 degrees in my case. And now we're going to take a look what will happen and if the filament will ooze out. But in fact I'm going to stop it right now, right at this point, just before it oozes some filament. And I'm going to show you guys why I'm going to do this. Because at this moment I have to do something else. I now have the heater block at its temperature, and before it starts bringing out filament, I'm going to screw this tight. This has to be really tight. And that's why there was an opening between the nozzle and the heater block, just because now I can tighten this at the correct settings. And now I'm going to put on the printer again, and I'm going to do the same trick again. So I'm going to load filament, apply settings, and heat it up again, because now with the heat turned on I have installed this hot end. And this is something which is very well, it's important you do so, because you have to screw on the nozzle against the heat break in the heater block with the temperature on. If you don't do so, then for sure it will go wrong. So I now did this, and I did this the wrong way, because I should have done it with this one. And let's hope some filament is oozing out now. And there it is. There is the filament. And just because an E3Dv6 hot end is a little bit bigger than the original hot end, we have to go into the utilities menu and go to the Z offset. The Z offset is a very important offset for this particular type of hot end. So I press OK, and now the bed will raise to its height. Now, as you will see, the hot end is not coming above the print bed. It will not do that, which is great, because you don't want the hot end to be above the print bed at this moment, because you don't know if it's at the correct height. So now I'm removing some excess filament which came out of the nozzle, like this. And now we have to find out if this height is correct. So we're going to move the carriage, and we'll see we'll bump into the print bed, because at this moment this nozzle is it's lower than the print bed is. So as you can see right now, when I move the carriage, it's going to hit. I have to do it without being with my hand in front of the camera. It hits to the bed. So I have to set my Z offset just a little to the bottom, so that this won't happen. Because it has to be moving freely. And now when this is happening, now it's moving freely. I can move it around just like I want to, as you can see here. Now it's time to calibrate the bed. And to do the bed calibration, well, I made a previous video which you can see in the top right corner at this moment. So there you can find all the ways to do the bed calibration. So now I showed you guys how to do the transformation from the original hot end that comes with the Vinci Pro printer to the E3Dv6 conversion, which is designed completely by Bruce Walker. And all the credits for this go to Bruce Walker. I just made a video how to assemble it and how to make it for yourself. But all the credits for this go to Bruce Walker, because he's the one who designed this and also who made this PCB boards, which I bought from him. And well, this makes it possible to do this great conversion. So if you want to help me out and help me with this video productions and that kind of things, normally I ask you to leave a donation and to tip me. But this time I'm not asking you to leave me that donation, but go to the website or the Thingiverse page of Bruce Walker and tip him, because he's the one who made this great design. So don't leave your tip at my place, leave your tip at his place, because, well, he made this. Thanks a lot for watching. Next week we will be there with another great video, and I hope you stay tuned, you will subscribe, like, all that kind of things, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye!